This is Mac OS Ken.
Europe is unfun for Apple. Foxconn's going bigger in India. And PETA praises the Cupertino company. It is Thursday, the 14th of December, 2023. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken. Brought to you by yours truly and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSKen. The headline from Bloomberg says Apple set to be hit by EU antitrust order in App Store fight with Spotify. Sounds kind of scary, though the story under the headline is not quite as scary as the headline makes it sound. Quoting one paragraph, which contains the crux of the story, EU regulators are putting the finishing touches to a decision on Apple's practice of blocking music services from pushing their users away from the App Store to alternative, cheaper subscription options, according to people familiar with the investigation. If that sounds familiar, it's because Apple has been facing a similar finding here in the US. When Epic Games sued Apple back in 2020, there were two primary issues at stake: whether Apple had to allow sideloading or third-party app stores on iPhone, and whether Apple could block app developers from telling potential buyers that they could pay for their apps outside of the App Store. In 2021, the first judge to hear the case denied the former, but went with the latter, saying Apple had to let developers steer customers to other avenues for paying if they wanted to do so. That decision was upheld by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in 2023. Both Apple and Epic have since appealed the Ninth Circuit decision to the Supreme Court, the former looking to maintain its anti-steering ways, with the latter looking for a reversal on the sideloading third-party app store thing. Interestingly, the company has moved partway down the road with apps in the European Union. In early 2022, Bloomberg says Apple began allowing Spotify and other music services to direct users to the web in their apps to sign up for subscriptions. This bypasses Apple's revenue cut of up to 30% and gives consumers more pricing and subscription options. Before that, the piece says Apple had agreed to let apps advertise lower prices for subscriptions outside of the App Store. As an example, Bloomberg says that would allow developers to email customers to inform them of cheaper prices if they sign up online rather than through the App Store. Spotify was unimpressed, arguing that the restrictions still existed and the changes were just for show. Makes one wonder what Spotify and other developers will say when people ignore the messaging in the App Store, assuming such messaging is finally allowed. Bloomberg sources say the EU decision is expected early next year. Back here in the States, no word on when or whether the Supreme Court will hear the appeals from Apple and or Epic. Hard to imagine Apple was happy with much that came out of Europe on Wednesday. On the same day as the anti-steering Bloomberg story, a piece from Reuters, outlined by Mac Rumors, had word of a group of tech giants targeting the Cupertino company. According to the piece, Google, Meta, Qualcomm, Nothing, Lenovo, Opera, and several other tech companies have announced a collaborative effort to push for open digital ecosystems in what appears to be a pointed move against Apple. The self-proclaimed Coalition for Open Digital Ecosystems, or CODE, seeks to encourage more open platforms and systems in Europe. Apparently, the plan is to keep reminding the EU about the Digital Markets Act, or DMA, and ways it can be used to lean on the likes of Apple and Microsoft, maybe. According to Mac Rumors, Code plans to work with companies, legislators, and academics to promote digital openness and present pathways for this to be achieved in Europe using the DMA and future EU legislation. Also, according to Mac rumors, while the likes of Google and Meta have been officially designated as gatekeepers by the EU, just like Apple, rivals are increasingly attempting to use EU law to prompt major changes to Apple's ecosystem. Hard to imagine Apple was happy with much that came out of Europe on Wednesday. Foxconn is upping its investment in India again. Bloomberg ran a piece on Wednesday saying that the world's largest contract manufacturer has won approval to invest at least $1 billion more in a plant it's building in India that'll make Apple products. One is a funny word in that sentence. Congratulations, you get to spend another $1 billion here. To be clear, it is another $1 billion. Bloomberg has secret sources indicating that the new money is on top of the $1.6 billion it earlier set aside for the 300-acre site close to the airport in Bengaluru. With over $2.5 billion planned for the facility, Bloomberg says the site is set to become the centerpiece of Foxconn's manufacturing capabilities in India. News on some audio gear from Apple. If you'd like a USB-C case for AirPods Pro you already own, you're in luck. iDownload blog says the Cupertino company is finally selling those standalone. Piling confusion on top of confusion, the report says Apple unveiled an updated version of the second-generation AirPods Pro with a USB-C version of the charging case in September of this year. At the time, though, you couldn't have one without the other. That is to say, the only way to get the USB-C case was to buy the earplugs too. $249 for the whole kit and caboodle, even if all you wanted was the caboodle. Or is the case the kit? Whatever the case alone is now out there. Available to order from Apple, the USB-C case will run buyers $99. It'll also run a little bit past the holidays. When I checked Apple's website Wednesday evening, it showed delivery dates between the 26th of December and the 29th. For something a bit more stylish, we turn to Apple's subsidiary Beats. Apple Insider has word of a tie-up between the audio and lifestyle brand and the fashion brand Stussy. According to the piece, Beats has collaborated with streetwear label Stussy on a pair of Beats Studio Pro with a 1990s-inspired design scheme used for the limited edition headphones. It's the Beats by Dre site that says the headphones draw inspiration from personal electronics prevalent in the 1990s. The ear cups and cushions are a light beige that's said to be reminiscent of urethane skateboard wheels. They've got the Beats logo on the outside and the Stussy logo on the inside. The headband is dark gray with the Stussy name written in the light beige used for the ear cups. It is a fashion thing for which some will pay. The headphones go on sale tomorrow, Friday, the 15th of December, for the standard price of $349.99. While that is what Apple, Beats, and Stussy will charge, Apple Insider points out that other sellers sell standard sets of these headphones for considerably less. Notable changes this week for Apple's self-repair program. A smallish press release says the company has expanded the number of devices supported by the program, expanded the number of countries open to the program, and added a new tool to the available toolbox. Devices now supported include the entire iPhone 15 line and every Mac powered by the M2 processor. That's the 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pro, 15-inch MacBook Air, Mac Mini, Mac Pro, and Mac Studio. Countries joining the do-it-yourself fun include Croatia, Denmark, Greece, Netherlands, Portugal, Switzerland, and 18 other European nations. That brings the total number of self-repair countries to 33, according to the release. As for the new tool, it's not really new, though it is new to folks outside of Apple and those blessed by the company. According to the release, Apple Diagnostics for self-service repair brings would-be fixers the same ability as Apple-authorized service providers and independent repair providers to test devices for optimal part functionality and performance, as well as identify which parts may need repair. That is available now to people in the US. Apple says it will be made available for repairers in Europe sometime in 2024. And finally today, it might be surprising to hear that People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, or PETA, has anything to say about Apple, let alone that they might honor the device maker as their 2023 Company of the Year. Then you remember Apple doesn't just make devices, it also makes accessories. And this year, it stopped making accessories in leather. In a blog post over the weekend that was riddled with puns and wordplay, PETA said Apple clearly recognizes that today's conscious consumers want to support sustainable brands. In the past 5 years, global searches for sustainable goods have increased by 71%, and surveys indicate that a vast majority of shoppers care about the environmental impact of the products they buy. As the largest company in the world, Apple is meeting consumers' demands and setting a tremendous example for other top companies by ditching leather as part of its goal to be carbon neutral by 2030. Yeah, I skipped the puns and wordplay. If anybody is going to do stupid word jokes here, it's going to be me. Hey, before we go, there's something I keep forgetting to mention. I'm on Mastodon, which is so much cooler than saying, I'm on X. Drugs will kill, boys and girls, and so will X. Anyway, I'm told I can tell you to simply look for @MacOSKen on whatever Mastodon client you use. My full address or handle or whatever, @MacOSKen @Mastodon.social. Find me. Let's play. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media. Online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.